Resource Committee meeting together at 5:17. Joe, would you do the prayer, please?
Yes, sir. Dear most gracious Heavenly Father, thank you for this evening to take care of the business of our tribe. Just be with us, dear Lord, as we make decisions and guide and lead us. And we just thank you for the many blessings you have bestowed upon our people. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Shall we do the roll call, please?
Sir Curtis Snell.
Here.
Ray Targis. Present. Jack Baker.
Here.
Harley Buzzer.
Here.
Joe Bird.
On it.
Julia Coates. Cody Fishinghawk. Here. Janelle Fulbright. Present. Don Garvin. Connie Gloria Jordan. Present. Lee Keener. Nick Lay.
Here.
Denise Taylor. Here. David Thornton.
On me.
Victoria Vespa.
Ani.
David Walkenstick. Karen Cowan Watts.
Ani.
John Masters.
Hey.
We have a quorum.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
for the sake of time, if it's okay with the committee, I would send me dispense with the reports unless they have specific questions for these directors.
Okay. All in favor of dispensing the reports?
But we can't ask questions?
Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Now approve the minutes.
I need
Motion to
a,
approve.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Minutes passed.
Okay.
Okay, does anybody have any questions for Mr. Bruce Davis?
I'm sorry, not a Bruce. I heard any questions? Just a Ginger.
Oh, Ginger's not here? Oh, I've got a replacement. Ginger?
You got a question, Kara?
Harley, did you have a question of Bruce?
Yes.
Harley?
Just a quick question.
Okay, Harley.
Jack Brown's sewer, didn't work out as far as that was city telephone.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And then the other question I had is, who's contractor laying asphalt at 3 Rivers?
The contractor at 3 Rivers laying asphalt.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr. Keener,
No question, thank you.
no question? Have more questions for Bruce or Ginger?
I have a Ginger question.
Yes.
Thank you. So I had a question, had visited Delaware County, and there were some questions about loss of trust property and such. So could you just in general clarify to me, so if I'm an individual tribal citizen with restricted trust property, is your department the one tasked with helping protect that property from takeover, like from a neighbor, if they fence it?
Yes.
And all those things? And if they've been land bought around it, you would help them gain access so they also wouldn't lose it?
We would attempt to. That would be a trespass issue if something is going on like that. We're talking trust or restricted. Those are two separate things. So, yes, they would call my office, which we deal with that. In fact, Joel Bean is my trust man that deals in trespasses. Him and Jamie Hothouse both run out on trespasses on almost a daily basis. We work daily with trespasses with the solicitor's office.
Okay, then I will follow up with you privately and keep Harley and Curtis involved with it and make sure to get you to these people so we don't further lose trust property. One last question is, so I didn't know if we helped with this, because we're here to protect and make sure land stays in trust or in restriction, I thought. But what if a family wants to sell it? Do we work with them to pull it out of trust then, or out of restriction, or do we won't participate?
We have a line. We have a list of people. Many times if they're wanting to sell the property, we're talking like a deed approval. We generally will put them on a list. If it's a deed approval for a home, we'll put them on a list. We generally suggest to them if they want to sell it, to get an attorney, to go through an attorney to do the deed process. And that's much quicker than being on a long list of,
So if it's restricted property, can we help as a tribe in order to keep our restricted and trust acreage protected? Do we try to offer to buy it or exchange it or do something else in order to keep our numbers, our acreage numbers?
very few times do we actually have people that come to us and say they want to sell their restricted property. And I don't know if they've been attuned to, Covell's coming up, or the last phase of Covell is coming up, and I don't know why. I've only been there for 2 years, but I don't see that much happening.
It was one of the questions I had, and maybe it was around, I apologize, I guess I have one more. So if you have like an 80-acre tract and you want to divide it between heirs, let's just say it's equally, and there's 4, so 20 acres each. Would we help probate that to get that, keep that in restriction for individual 20 and divide up that property? Or do they still need to get an attorney probably for that deed to be divided? How does that work? I was trying to remember all the
They
terminology.
could come in and fill out an application for probate, depending on the status of we do a narrative on the land, and depending on the status of the land, if it actually was in the original lot here, in their folks' name, then to do the application for probate. Now, understand our probate is where we have, I think we're around 160, 170 names are ahead of anyone that would come in tomorrow. And some of those are fairly lengthy processes.
Okay, you've been very helpful, thank you, and I'll follow up with you. Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions for Ginger? Yes, Frankie?
I need to talk to you, but I'll just call you tomorrow.
Okay.
Anybody else questions for Ginger? Okay, do we have any questions for Bruce Davis on the Veterans Center?
What else is lacking, Mr. Director?
We've moved staff in, the offices are open, and just a few touch-up things where we moved some artwork after the grand opening, but other than that, it's awesome.
Well, we won't have the ribbon cutting, or we done had it, have we?
Program, Marcia Lamb, she's in charge of the Veterans Center now, since we passed the
Okay.
keys over to her. So,
What's the hours on the Veterans Center?
8 to 5,
Monday through Friday?
Monday through Friday.
Okay, I guess that's all, Mr. Bruce.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody have any questions for, pardon me, Tom Elkins? Thank you, Tom. Moving on down to old business, Frankie, you want to take 14031?
Yes. This is a resolution authorizing a grant of easement for right-of-way across the Cherokee Nation Tribal Trust land to Jamie Crowley and Jeremy Crowley. And Joel has provided us with a map. There was questions last month about the land and the map and how long the people have owned the land. And I believe he said it's over 10 years.
Yeah, they've had it since 2004.
And there's maps included in the packet. So if anybody has any other questions, Joel will be happy to answer.
Yes, all right.
But I put this in a motion.
Say,
I just have a couple of questions about it, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Amy can probably answer those for me. How big a piece of property is it?
Is that they're going across ours?
Yeah. The other question I guess, does it go across the center of our property, or are we taking to the edge, or?
There's a fence line right here. The pasture land here, tribe owns this area here. Sorry, they're standing right along the edge of the fence line that separates our tribal units right there.
And what are they gonna be doing with their property?
They're gonna be doing a Healthy Forest Reserve program. They're gonna basically getting a USDA, some help from the USDA for their endangered bat species and to maintain a healthy forest. So I've got some information on healthy forest if anyone needs some to read up on that.
I guess, my concern is 5 years down the road, are they gonna just let the healthy forest go and sell the property? Somebody come in there and do whatever they want to with the property, or is this a long-term?
It's a 30-year deal. They won't be able to sell it for 30 years, so it's gonna be maintained with that piece of property.
And I think, yes, ma'am.
Might I make a suggestion?
Sure.
We could make it non-assignable, and it would revert back to us if they sold the land. That way you could assure that nobody else could come in there without us knowing about it.
I would be agreeable to something like that. And I think everybody knows how I feel about giving easements across properties. For one, I have a small amount of property, and I don't mind giving a person a place to get their land if it's landlocked, but, you don't want them going just right smack in the middle of your property. There's a way to give an easement and to get them to their property. But as you know, Mr. Chairman, we've looked at these easements before, and most of them just go in the middle of a property and it really ruins a piece of property, so.
Right. But I think it's, yes,
And if this is an easement that would not take away from our property, then I would be willing to vote for this easement with those amendments that the chair lady has mentioned.
I would propose those as friendly amendments, that this easement be considered non-assignable, and should they sell the property, that the easement would immediately terminate and revert back to the tribe.
Okay.
So that the next person would have to make application all over again.
Okay, we can do that.
you accept that?
Put that in form of a
I
motion.
put it in form of a friendly.
Yeah, I'll second that motion.
I accept it.
Motion is second?
A question, Kurt?
Yes.
The,
Janice, wait, Janice
Councilor
first.
Taylor.
Can I direct a question to Tina for a legal question on this, or do I need to direct it?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, the question is, I know there are instances of, I don't know if it's called eminent domain, whereas if a roadway has been open and used for a period of time, it becomes,
If you have an easement of record, then there is no adverse possession or prescriptive easement because it's with your permission.
okay,
You only get that adverse possession, if I can go ahead and answer, you only get that when there's nothing of public record.
it's just been done and been done.
They just
Right.
continue to trespass.
Thank you, Chair.
And if I might add, and since it's on trust property, there can be no adverse possession claim. The only thing that they could actually do would be condemnation, but you can only do that for public use, so this would be a private owned deal, so it would never leave the tribe's name, so.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, Mr. Walterstick.
is there any reason why the road on the CN Trust land on the south side is going through the upper quarter of it?
On the,
The bottom section, the one first to the west? I mean, yeah, to the west.
where it comes off the county road going west, is that what you're asking?
No, where it comes south off J. Alberti's place.
Okay, if you look real
I come
close
in
on
and
that.
shoot straight west across the property line. I
Okay,
mean, the fence line.
okay. If you look real close on that map, you'll notice that there's kind of there's some terrain on there, and it kind of follows in where it's not on top of a hill. The road was just built in there, and the road was okay to be built by Frank Farrell back several years ago to the Albertis. And the Albertis went ahead and dozed the road for us so we could get to our trust property on the backside of that. That's when the road was really put in there, so that's the reason that it touches us on the far west part of that CN Trust land.
Section 10. you kinda, I mean, is it, most people that get easements, they go across fence lines, don't they?
Do what now?
Most people that when they get easements,
They
they
go
go through
along
fence
the
lines.
fence line.
Yeah.
And
along
this
the
one
fence
does,
line.
there's an existing road, correct?
Yeah, the road's existing.
Well, this one right here, it cuts, it doesn't go on the fence line, it goes,
There's,
it cuts the top quarter section out.
well, once you get to a certain point, there's not any fences out there, guys. I mean, this is some pretty rough, hilly, I mean,
I mean,
it's on the side of the Montague Mountain and,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
The road's already there, it's been
Yeah, the road's
established
been
for
there
years.
for several years. Now, the first part that goes in right off the county road, Mr. Walkenstick, that does run along the fence line. There's a fence that runs right in the middle that separates Unit 2 and Unit 14, so those are travel units that are leased out. And the road has gone through there and then goes up to the Alberti property. And right where it comes up to the Alberti property, there's a little cable that Cherokee Nation has a key to, so we can go ahead and get back to our other property, so.
All right, thank you for that.
Mr. Keener,
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jamie, then, the road in the western section there, is that 14 or 2?
Okay, the road that goes over,
At the top of the trust land?
Uh-huh.
That exists today?
yes, it exists
Okay, and
today.
it stops at the,
It goes on into where the Crowley has the Healthy Forest Reserve hash mark. The road goes on over into there, so onto the top of the mountain.
so the red denotes an existing road?
The red
right
denotes an
now.
existing road, yes.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
this time.
How long is that federal program that they're trying to get on? How long is the lease for?
This one's for 30 years. You can do 10, and there's some limits that they put on you when you do 10. If you do 30, they know that you're gonna stick with the program, and that's what the Crowleys got in, was with the 30-year program. And that's what they offer it to tribes as well. So if we've got some back caves, we would definitely be looking into doing that as well.
And what are we gonna be paid for the easement?
Whatever the appraised value is, they'll definitely pay for the
And is
easement.
the appraised value gonna be based on the easement itself, or is it gonna be based on the potential money they're making off the federal program?
It could probably be done either way, however you guys request it, because
Well, it's gonna be worth a lot more if we get it off the federal program.
right, what they're gonna do with the federal program is they'll bring in an appraiser, and they will appraise the property, basically as a purchase, because they're not gonna be able to use it for 30 years, so they're gonna pay full market value for that property. Oh, I shouldn't say full market value, because they'll knock some off of it, but they'll pay for that, off the appraised value. And from there, what we would do on a road is we would get the road appraised. They would take the whole sum of the property, take out how many acres that the road is gonna cover us, and then we can get paid on that. And if you want to, we can double it, however you guys see us get to do, so.
There's not gonna be any traffic on the road
Just,
because they just need a way in.
The USDA will be out there every 4 years for sure, to make sure that, and then the Crowleys whenever they visit their land, and the tribe whenever we go out and check on it as well.
And they're tribal members?
Yes, ma'am. And I can get you copies of their blue cards if you need that.
So you are going to get the most you can get? For
Yes,
the-
yeah, well, they're willing to pay fair market value plus, just because it's,
And they had owned it for 10 years?
yeah, they've owned it since '04.
And they've not had it on this program before?
No, ma'am, this will be the first time for them on that.
Thank you.
So you got a motion and a second?
We've got a friendly on.
I have the friendly, which is it's non-assignable and,
Counselor Buzzard
it,
agreed with that?
yeah, and it would revert back if they ever tried to sell it. In other words, it won't go with the land.
Okay.
But I would also like them to bring back what the amount is that we're gonna get off of it, what the
Okay.
consideration's gonna be.
Yeah, we can get you we'll have to have it appraised, of course. We'll do the appraisal, our office will get that appraisal done. So, the USDA will have someone appraise the value of the land that the forest is gonna be on. real estate services will get the value of the appraisal for the actual easement.
Yeah, we got the friendly, got a motion second.
All in favor of the friendly amendment? Yes?
Say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Friendly's been accepted. This is to pass, to approve the easement.
All in favor of approving the easement?
Aye.
All opposed?
Abstain.
One decision.
One no and one abstain. Motion passes.
Okay.
Moving on down to new business. See one under new business, 14041. Tara, you want to take that?
This act is just requiring that real appraisals must be done by either the tribal government or business entities prior to any purchase. Because we found out recently that several business purchases, for example, did not have actual appraisals done before there was any purchase. I move for approval.
Have any questions?
Second.
I'll second.
Second. Any discussion?
Have discussion? Sheriff? Anna?
Okay, I would like to ask Ginger Brown to come up and tell us how they're doing the procedure now, and as opposed to how it was done by past administration.
I can address how it's done when the Cherokee Nation purchases the property. Well, actually, currently, we are in the process of doing a policy and procedure. And with that policy comes the answer to this question, I think. Currently, we probably receive anywhere from 3 to 10 inquiries each week. While I've been in this council room, I've probably had 2 calls that I need to call back regarding purchase of property. So we get anywhere from 3 to 10 calls a week, or emails, or walk-ins. And so we needed, noting that some of the inconsistencies that happened throughout the years of property being purchased, we've been working on a policy for the acquisitions so that we could thoroughly review the land purchased by Cherokee Nation, just to assure that the compliance of our goals and our objectives of the Cherokee Nation are adhered to. So currently, what we are trying to do is, once an inquiry is received, it goes to administrative support right now, Pat Gwynn, for preliminary assessment. And what he does is vets out different executive directors that are looking for this, that might be interested in this piece of property, and to all of the entities. He contacts each of those. If he thinks that, or if one of them is interested, has the purchase price money, or wants to haggle on it, a formal review is made by a committee. And once the committee reviews it, the executive director who is interested in it proceeds to, give their input. If the committee decides to go forward, it goes forward to the chief's office for approval. If the chief approves it, it comes to real estate services, and we do the rest of the work as far as make an offer or look at the purchase price, do comparables by looking at the technology that we have in our office. It's not necessary. It's not necessary to have an appraisal done for every piece of property you buy if you have an idea of what the property is worth. If you have an avenue to look at comps.
Ginger, do you employ the current method by which certified appraisers appraise property, what is known as the 3-3 rule, the 3-year rule, within 3 miles of the property with adjustments?
We do, we do. The appraisals that we do in our office are not necessarily for this. It is for the BIA. Some of the BIA work there for the regional office. We have a few appraisers that we work with. And it's kind of not really funny, but there's approximately 277 appraisers, state appraisers in the 14-county area. And a few of them will work with us.
How many independent certified appraisers are there in our local area that you know of, in the, say in the 14 counties? 'Cause I know that group is much, much smaller.
There's certified general appraisers right at the top, and that's what the BIA approves. Then you are looking at certified residential appraisers, and then state licensed appraisers. And then the bottom, I wouldn't say necessarily the bottom of it, but the trainee appraiser is the fourth type of appraiser that you have. What we try to do is certified general appraisers. In the 14-county area, I'd have to look. I have a list, but it's not all the 277. There's very few CGAs or general appraisers.
Is it safe to say that on our tarot list, if they are certified independent appraisers, we already have them under contract?
We have 0 tarot appraisers.
So at this point, it would probably go to a non-tarot vendor then if we did these appraisals.
Oh, definitely. They have no tarot.
What's the approximate cost of appraisals at this point in time?
It depends on what you're looking at, rural or commercial. You know,
Commercial.
Really, commercial, you're probably talking anywhere from 1,500 to on up. And I believe, if I might, in the past, I don't know this firsthand, but in the past I've been told that they have sent workups, you know, to be tarot certified, as well as agreements to as many appraisers in the 14-county area as possible, and have gotten very few comments back. And we work with not any more than 4 other than the BLM, sir.
Do you have funding within your office to pay $1,500 for 3 to 10 appraisals a week?
We only process the paperwork. No, in answer to your question, no, we don't.
Do you know whether anybody's got that kind of funding?
I don't know. I would not know. I suppose if they have a lot of money to, or enough money to purchase any particular piece of property, they'd have to add that on. But
Is your system working right now?
we're just trying it out right now, but it seems to be.
Was there a system before
No.
you put this together?
Absolutely not. There was
So when we bought 4 years ago, when we bought the lumber company,
No.
was there a system in place? And if it had been appraised and then you tore the lumber company down, what good would the appraisal have been?
You're correct, you know, and an appraisal is only good as the date and time in which you appraise it.
And with the improvements that's on the ground at that time. So if you tore the building down, let's say you had a $1.5 million appraisal on the building that we bought, Dodson Roberts Lumber Company, $1.5 million. And then you tore the existing business down. You closed the business, you tore it down. Is the lot still worth $1.5 million?
In my opinion, it wouldn't be. It would depend on the lumber. I could imagine you could have gotten some money out of the
So if you'd
lumber.
have had an appraisal, what good would it have done? Other than more money out of our pocket, right?
Correct.
Do we buy land for resale?
I haven't known for us to in the past 2 years.
So we're mostly buying land for location and a purpose.
Yes.
If we need to go to Ochaleta and buy land for a clinic, We're buying it for the location.
Yes, ma'am.
So would an appraisal really help us at that point?
There, if I might, there are certain times when the bottom line to buying a piece of property is seller knows what they want.
Yeah.
And some of them are just not going to budge, you know, from what they want, regardless if there's an appraiser or not.
To your knowledge, have we ever required appraisals in the last 15 years? And, I mean, we've done them, we do appraisals, we've done them before, but they've never been required by this council, have they?
To my knowledge, in the past 2 years, no, they have not been required. To my knowledge, over the past 15 years, not to my knowledge, but I couldn't really tell you that.
Well, I would challenge anyone to say that appraisals were required in the last 15 years. I don't believe they've been required since 1999.
Not on land acquisitions.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Mr. Nick, you're next. Councilman Lay, you're next.
I didn't have my hand up, but I'll go ahead and ask a question. Thank you.
He's reading your mind.
Yeah, you're reading my mind. Thank you. First of all, I've seen Bruce and Ginger and their teamwork. And trust me, they go through the motions of an appraiser, in my opinion, and probably far beyond that. And they're sharp people. They know what things cost. When you're dealing in the 14 counties, you go to an area, you know what property goes for. I know what property goes for where I live. Victoria knows what property goes for in Craig County. And these folks are asking questions. These folks are very much asking questions. There's nothing wrong with an appraisal. It'll just give you a ballpark, a high and a low is what they give you. I've got them. They give you a high and a low. And sometimes that high and low is 900 an acre to 2,200 an acre. I've got them that way. I've paid for them that way. And I'm sitting there looking at it saying, why did I buy this thing? Why did I pay for this? So anyway, I think this team does a good job, and I think they've got a plan going. So I'm gonna probably go with their plan rather than this one.
Here.
Thank you. Ginger, am I hearing that you have a process possibly in lieu of a written documented process in lieu of a appraisal, a real appraisal?
No.
That can be used as a benchmark to whether or not the tribe paid, sometimes I know we have to make decisions, and it may not be fair market value, it may be higher than fair market value if it means that there's a business decision or a governmental decision to protect the interest of the nation. But I think my point is there a written process that kind of gives an idea of what that comparison is in order for citizens to evaluate how we made our decisions and how we're spending our money? And you're only talking about the government side, correct?
I'm only talking about the government side, not at all about the.
So, is the process that you're talking about that I wasn't aware of before, is that this new process you brought in, it couldn't be used as a way to show the normal citizen who's not part of the Politico process, decides they want to look something up and they want to know why we bought a piece of property and how we went about it. There's nothing in your process that you're bringing forward or have now in place that would say it was worth $25,000 and we paid $26,000 or $24,000.
Previous to this time, I'd say previous to a few months ago, we've been working on this since I got over there and working on policies and procedures, okay? And I think that, I've worked with Pat on this.
Okay.
And we've tried to vet it out, and we're working on this process, and it seems workable. However, my office I have no doubt that my office could go in and look through their files. But with this process, they'd have a packet. You'd have your packet with this policy and procedure of the entire property.
So, I'm very willing to modify this legislation. It doesn't have to be exactly this. I understand 1,500 or more could incur a lot of cost. I mean, and it doesn't have to be, just has to be the point. All I'm suggesting in the legislation, the way I thought it was written, just has to be before we buy it. There has to be a proper appraisal, so that's part of the documented process for people asking after the fact, did we evaluate it properly or not? Did we purchase it at a reasonable price? What was our reasoning? Because I'm looking at purchases, not on your side, but on the CNB side, that I don't have any enough documentation that can be provided to me to gauge whether or not we paid a reasonable price or not. So on the government side, is there something you can offer me that's a compromise that we could reword this differently, that would still give us, our constituents, some kind of assurance on how we came up with a price or a decision?
I have to say, this is the first time I've seen it when I sit down.
Okay.
Seeing the act, okay?
Well, I'm talking about your process.
Sure, there is. We have technology. We have what we call PV Plus. We can pull comparables down from highs, lows, in between, next to. We can go to a different area with, I'm sure, well, I would venture to say that the other entities may have that as well, but that's what we use in many of our other procedures that we do.
Do you document that, include that with that land purchase, the process that you went through?
Yes, we certainly do. Everything stays together.
Okay, and then you're saying that that is comparable to a real estate appraiser's appraisal process?
By no means would I demean the appraiser's process or their profession by saying that we could do these comps. I'm just telling you they are comparable, and we can get very close to what the land is worth.
Mr. Chairman, due to the time, and I apologize if there's other people that want to talk, but I'm hearing an opportunity for some compromise, at least on the government side. And I would if no one gets upset because they haven't been heard, but make a motion to table till next month, 1 month.
Second.
Second. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We table for 1 month.
Good job, man.
Okay, moving on down, then making announcements. Bruce?
GB make one announcement.
Yes.
30 seconds. You're out of town.
Well, I've got really two.
Oh, no.
Now, the hay is sold.
Hey, so,
Yeah, we have a few bales left at Bull Holler, and I think it's committed to individual. He says he wants 300, so, but, we're waiting on that to finalize. And then the other thing is, trail ride this weekend, 18th and 19th at South Salt Creek Park.
yeah, right, 18th, 19th.
That's the other thing I want to talk about.
Bring your own horse, or?
Bring your own horse if you want to, or Councilman Thornton, he might supply one. He helped us out with the food and everything. I want to say a big thank you to him for helping us out.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion to adjourn, you got a second? Aye.
Motion to adjourn.
We'll
All
start
in
our,
favor?
we'll
Next
start
meeting day,
our
August, or May the 12th.
council meeting about 10 after 6. I'll give you a few
Okay.